is a D6 generation Pip. One of those dots on the side of a six-sided die. Yeah, a Pip. A short Pip. Little something. About anything gaming related. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ. We'll see what's coming up today.
Well, there you are.
There you are. Non-IP infringing intro music.
Indeed. There's absolutely no way we were close enough to infringe on anything.
We've been talking a lot about Song of Ice and Fire,
the miniatures game from
possibly
Simon.
To the point of a little bit of frustration with folks out there.
Maybe
they
we're
want us
doing
to move
a little
on.
Too much.
So we are not going to talk about the miniature game, Song of Ice and Fire, today.
Today, right.
No. Instead, we're going to talk about a spoiler-filled...
Spoilerific.
Our thoughts on the first half of the final season
of Game of Thrones.
Okay, so
dun, 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 dun.
Craig,
yes,
going into this final season, which was delayed for a year and a half?
A year. A year, yep.
Which, I still question that, but I guess they milked a bunch of licensing out of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, so took a year off.
Yep.
It's finally back.
Yep.
I was wondering if our interest would wane, but of course we've been playing the miniature game a lot.
Right,
so we're kind of back into it.
So we were all super into it.
I'm at my office, right? And I'm there, I'm in the kitchen, people are hanging out. All kinds of people are talking about the latest episodes. Non-nerds, just everybody and their cousins, still into it, still drawing a crowd. Going into this season, and what were you thought? Were you ready? Were you nervous?
I was super nervous. Yeah. If you think about it, 2019, and I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, 2019 will see the culmination of over 60 years of franchises between Star Wars and Avengers, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Game of Thrones.
Wow.
That adds up to about 60 years of franchises all being closed out in 2019.
It's a good year to be a geek.
Or a bad year. So that's what I was afraid of.
Well, there's still going to be spin-offs and other stuff.
No. But not a bad because it's over. Bad, what if it ends in an unsatisfactory way?
Yes.
So here's my theory, or not theory, but here are my fears. I am a sap. I know that I'm a sap. Yeah. I am a sap.
I wasn't going to say anything, but...
I'm a sap.
Right.
And I get the whole... I'm on record, right, as not liking nihilistic fiction where everybody dies and it doesn't matter in the end.
Right.
And I know that this has been sort of shaping up that way, or at the very least, it's gritty realism, right?
Right.
And I've been terrified going into this that I'm not going to be satisfied with the ending of Game of Thrones. And I think I have some backing to say that.
There might be indicators.
There may be indicators that there will be, okay. And then going into Endgame, I was like, that's 10 or 12 years now that they've been doing this. What's going to happen there? Who's going to die there? And so all in one day, we had the third episode of the final season of Game of Thrones, and I saw Endgame at the same time. Now, we're not going to talk about Endgame. We're not going to do any spoilers on Endgame, so you're safe on Endgame. But so many people died in episode 3, but at the same time, their deaths were exactly the way they would want to have died, I think.
I think so.
And it was redemption. So I'm okay with characters dying with a purpose, right?
Right.
And so far, that's what I've been seeing. I don't want to see anybody sacrifice for no reason. I don't want to see anybody just die because they're dumb. Okay, Theon's death. Unbelievable to me. Jorah Mormont's death was incredible to me. Lyanna Mormont. The poor Mormonts. Let's take a moment of silence.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. In case we mentioned spoilers.
Well, it'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Spoilers are plenty here.
Spoilers. I think, didn't we mention it was going to be spoilerific?
We might have.
So, so as long as these deaths keep coming and they make sense within the story and they work with the characters, I'm okay with it. So I've got to say, so far, I've been blown away by the quality of the episodes, and I love where the show is going.
So clearly, episode 3 was like a mini climax.
Yep.
Sort of the pre-climax for the final finale here.
Yep.
We are 3 episodes into a 6 episode season, right?
Yep.
What did you think? I did see there was a little bit of criticism maybe on the first 2 that maybe they were fan service or maybe a little bit of. I really liked the lead in on the first 2. I love how the beginning of the season started the way episode 1 did. We just started watching them again with my daughters now because they're 16 and 15. So we're like, they're old enough to handle this. So we started watching. And, the very first episode of season 1 starts in Winterfell.
Yep.
People are gathering there.
With an army approaching.
Yeah, they did it was almost like shot for shot.
Yep.
Obviously intentionally.
Yep.
Kind of bringing it all together. I really liked the lead up of both episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
To set us up for 3 here.
I loved it. I loved it because it's all, to me, the show is all about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the characters in action. To the point where the Battle of Winterfell, there were moments in the Battle of Winterfell where I started thinking like, oh, can we go back to the characters? Like, the fight choreography is incredible. The staging of the fights is incredible. I don't have any complaints except that I wanted even more of the character stuff. And so those first 2, that first episode where you get all these reunions.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just blew me away. Like every 10 minutes, there was another major reunion of characters that hadn't seen each other in seasons.
The knighting of Brienne.
Oh, that was awesome.
I may have cried a little.
Episode 2, yeah.
I may have cried a little.
Yeah.
May it happen.
I think that would be okay.
And that's where I think there's going to be, I think they're hinting at us that there's going to be satisfactory conclusion here.
Right.
That it feels like just desserts are happening.
Right.
And it's kind of the first time, there's been a few moments of just desserts throughout the season, the series. But I feel like we're starting to see that things are going to, not for everybody. Clearly some people are going to have bad endings. And it's not just going to be the bad guys.
No.
The bad guys still being sort of arbitrary depending on how you define these things.
Yeah.
But I feel like,
well, I think the bad guys are pretty well defined.
Yeah, but I feel like we're going to kind of get an ending where, people get their just desserts a little bit.
Right.
But I'm not really sure how many more good people must die for that to happen.
Right.
Right? And how many
there's going to be sacrifices.
Yeah, there's going to be more. And just because we got to the end of episode 3 in a big epic battle, I do think there's more of that to come. And it's funny because I've seen some people say things like, they've done the battle now, but there's still 3 more episodes. But the thing to remember is the winter and the White Walkers, they're a distraction that essentially, Cersei and the Lannisters have been leveraging.
Right.
To kind
now, that's an interesting take, though, Russ. Like, did you feel like they were a distraction all along? Because one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about are people who are saying, like, all along they felt that the Walkers and the Night King were basically framed as the real threat that was underlying, and all this other stuff with King's Landing and everything was a distraction.
Not if you're a book reader.
Well, that's true.
I think the series kind of set it up that way because the series starts, the very first scene of the first series is actually the Night's Watch walking through the woods, hitting White Walkers early on.
Right. Well, that's what happens in the books, too.
Yes, except that you kind of forget about it, and there's no sign of fantasy at all for a long time.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is really about, Baratheon getting screwed over by the Lannisters and the whole, it's called Game of Thrones. It's not like Winter is coming.
Game of White Walkers.
Well, no, but you know what I mean? Like, I think there is this other threat, and that's been part of the thing. But now what's interesting is that threat has been eliminated, at least theoretically.
Theoretically,
it is. Yeah. So now what happens, right? Because you've got, the North just took a heavy hit. But interestingly, the North didn't take as much of a hit as Khaleesi did.
No, yes.
Really?
No. Daenerys has really...
The big loser in that battle was actually Daenerys Stormborn.
Clearly.
Because she has her Dothraki gone.
Yep.
Her Unsullied gone. At least mostly gone.
Mostly gone,
Her best friend and bodyguard.
And father figure and everything else.
Great, that scene. Did it awesome.
Yep.
Gone. She didn't keep her 2 dragons. That's a win. Right?
Yep.
But
are they her dragons now?
She keep the dragons, right? But of course, we got Jon running around there who seems to be pretty dragonlicious himself.
Yeah.
So I do think, that's a thing. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing.
Right.
And I don't... So I had a couple... So I loved episode 3.
Yes, as did I.
But there were a couple of, shall we say, and I'd love our listeners to write in and let us know about this, but there are a couple of strategies
Yes.
or tactics.
The tactics.
That I had questions about.
Mhm.
Let's just say I was not, no hate, just a little disappointed.
No hate.
Here's the thing. I bought in 100% because in the end, basically, it's a fantasy story, and I just want to see all the
with
cool
dragons
scenes. So
doing strafing
we're not
runs.
getting too things too much crazy going on. But this has also been a show that actually had pretty interesting military tactics in a lot of the big battles in the past.
That's true.
Battle of the Bastards, and early on with Robb Stark and the Lannisters, like they showed cool flanking and other things you'd expect in sort of fantasy or medieval combat. But in this, so explain to me, Craig, what the thinking is behind taking your cavalry,
right,
throwing them out front of the defenses and the walls,
assault,
and use them as throwaway shock troops against.
Well, I can do this. Ready?
Yeah, let me know.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
The cool visual of their flaming swords dying.
Yeah,
other than that, you gain nothing.
What did we actually think was going to happen there?
And
then the trebuchets were configured in such a way they really had one shot.
Right. Well, no, they could have kept. This is what I didn't understand about them. Once you know the Dothraki have all gone down, right? Because the stragglers, and I think there may be 10 of them left altogether. Why are you not shooting again with the trebuchets?
We know that it's all for naught because he can just raise dead again. But the interesting part is you're feeding him more bodies to raise with.
Right.
So you're losing the strategy on this at two levels. One, basic military medieval tactics. I know you can sally forth from your gates and do some stuff in the field, but I don't really understand. Why wouldn't you be better off just defending the wall from the beginning?
Well, okay, ready? I just thought of this, so it may be totally invalid.
Okay, good.
Their entire strategy was not about defeating the Night King because they knew they couldn't. Their entire strategy was luring him to the God's Wood.
Ah, yes.
And so what they were trying to do was buy themselves as much time as possible, pushing the bulk of the forces, keeping them out and away from the God's Wood, so that the Night King would have to. They might have been playing for time.
And we do think we had sort of a Bran being Doctor Strange moment where he knew, he knew that the Night King was going to come, and maybe he foresaw the whole Arya thing. Yeah. And so he was kind of like, we just got to get him alone to the God's Wood.
Right.
Or
now here's a question: where was he when he said, "I have to go," and rolled his eyes up? And he took over the murder of crows for a while,
but what happened there, right?
But then he was still gone.
Right.
So I think we are going to find out what he was doing
was he talking
while he was
to Arya
gone.
Or something?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know. I think we're going to find out. So that was intriguing.
So a lot of really cool moments in the battle.
Oh, yes.
Some of my particular favorites. But yeah, so just to sum up on the attack thing, though, was definitely the putting the troops outside. But I get the slowing them down thing.
Right.
But what was interesting was Daenerys and I guess Tyrion, being her hand, allowed her forces to be the fodder.
Right.
Which I think is really interesting because right now she does have 2 dragons. So that's a thing.
Now here's another question.
She's kind of stripped.
Did they allow her people to be fodder, or was it just that her people were much better than the other people who retreated first?
Maybe.
So, I mean, the fact they threw the Dothraki away. There's no denying that.
I don't know why you don't keep them behind the castle and flank or something.
Oh, I know. Special effects budget.
Oh,
do you want dragons or do you want 10,000 horses?
Yeah, no, the dragon
fight. I mean, the dragons really. You need to go with the
I did like the dragon fight, although I did lose track of things a couple times.
Yeah, that was.
So they did have the classic problem.
But so did they, because they ran into each other.
Yes, and they did have the classic problem of it's kind of dark, so you can't really see what's going on a lot. But still, one thing I thought was really interesting, and no Avengers spoilers, but like you, I saw Avengers the same day.
Yeah.
I saw this, so I saw Avengers in the morning, and then I saw this, and I actually expected to notice a difference in budget.
Right.
Now, obviously there is.
Yep.
And mentally I can think about, wow, the budget for Avengers was so much better because think about that giant battle scene versus. But here's the thing that's interesting. At the time I was watching it, I didn't.
Yeah.
I felt just as engaged and involved and fulfilled.
Yep.
And I felt I saw all the scenes I wanted to see.
Yep.
Just as well executed. So I thought they did an amazing job with their budget.
Right.
Because clearly they don't have the budget that Avengers has.
No.
But they did just an amazing job. For me to be able to watch both those shows in the same day.
Yeah.
And not be like,
feel like they were both in the same
this is a small screen show.
Yeah.
Granted, doing well, but not the same as the best-selling movie ever in one day.
Right, yeah.
So I feel like that was really pretty good. And the fact that I could watch it.
Do you remember when it was a big deal when a movie hit $1 billion?
Right.
That was like 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And here Endgame just hit $1.2 billion in its first weekend. But anyway, back to Game of Thrones.
So I love the effects. The only time I was drawn out at all was really the castle strategy, because I couldn't really get my head around putting not having a couple trebuchets behind the wall to shoot over it. Maybe there's not enough room in the courtyards there. I don't know. I don't really have my Winterfell map.
No, yeah, we did.
On me, but so that was really the only problem. But I let that go. Once I let that go for the coolness and sorceress.
I mean, you have to.
Swords.
The flaming swords winking out in the darkness.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That was pretty
It was a great scene. And the dragon fight was fantastic.
Yeah.
Dragon fire was awesome.
Oh, yes.
The dragon fight was awesome. And again, the other thing that does help you out with the troops outside the wall is the dragons can hit dragon fire far away from the castle. Yeah. But all of that was fantastic. I thought that whole scene was really well done. The creepiness inside the castle.
Oh, it was like a totally different show.
It was.
When Arya got into the library, and it was a ghost movie, zombie movie, like classic for a good 10 minutes.
And here's the most satisfying part. You get this big climactic battle that's been kind of building for like however many seasons it's been, seven seasons. And they got it in. They got a full, was an hour and 10-minute episode, whatever it was.
It was hour and 30 minutes.
Hour and 30-minute show of just a big, massive fight.
Yeah.
Like, you don't normally get that.
No.
Normally, even in a
Never been done before.
Even in a blockbuster movie like Avengers, the main battle's not an hour and 30 minutes long. Like, you don't ever see battles that big. So they actually made this work. Now, they did some neat tricks, like having a lot of it being inside the castle so they could keep the budget low. But it worked.
Yep.
And a lot of the things that we all kind of suspected, like, you're in a crypt. You got a guy. You got essentially a lich. All of us D&D players are like, lich, you're in a crypt. Get out. Right. You know, we're like, of course they did that. It was great. The Raised Dead scene was.
It was awesome. It was
so
awesome.
Great. And I did feel like. Did you feel like they might lose?
I did. I felt several times that they might lose. And I thought it was going to be a cliffhanger. I honestly didn't. It ended very abruptly.
I thought it might, but that worked.
Yeah.
So
I
did a really good job of making. I thought it was going to be potentially they would lose, and somehow some people would get away.
Yeah.
So like you could imagine Jon and Daenerys flying away on the dragon somehow at the last minute. But the way they did it with him raising the dead and everything, it looked really literally hopeless.
Yeah.
And I didn't see did you see Arya coming?
No.
No.
But then neither did Jon when she snuck up on him in the exact same place in the Godswood in episode 1 of this season.
Yes, and she's perfectly trained by these guys to be able to do that because she's done it like several times in the series. But
okay, ready?
Yeah.
Some quotes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's useless. You can't fight death. She can.
Yes, right.
You're like, oh, yes.
And, of course, the internet noticed the eyes thing,
which
is fantastic.
Right, yep.
Brown, green, and blue.
And blue.
And everybody's talking about how green is Cersei.
Yeah.
So that's
we'll see.
We'll see.
That may be like a...
There's a lot of green out there.
We'll see.
But I do feel like the brown's very vague. I know they got him, but...
Right,
So I thought that was great. My wife and I don't know if you did this. So Nicole's a huge fan of Game of Thrones, the show. She doesn't like the books, but she loves the show. So we've been watching it, and she's been just as excited as me to watch it. We both had a little mini list of our favorite characters and who we didn't want to die. So it was like Tyrion, Jon Snow. I still wanted to see Daenerys around, although I thought she might die. I honestly thought that
she has to be pregnant. She's going to be pregnant by the end. I'm calling it here.
Why does that have to happen?
Because
I think it's a cool
huge
plot.
thing about the fact that she was told by the witch that she could never carry another child and all that stuff.
I hadn't thought about that. But I was just thinking because they'd set up Jon to also be able to be the king, she could die.
Right.
And it would be a really interesting death because she'd be dead. A lot of people, it was interesting at my office. So a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And we're talking very cattily about this show. It's interesting non-geeks that like this show. They talk about it like most people talk about soap operas.
Right, yes.
Right? In a very interesting way. It's a very fascinating case study.
It is.
And they're talking about how much they don't like Daenerys because she's such a bitch. It's like this whole thing. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, I don't really think about it that way. I think of it more like,
she's a queen.
She's a queen, but she was downtrodden and went through all this ordeal. And now she's finally got her power. And but she is, they're right.
She's kind of bitchy.
Yeah. So I can see, that. But I could see, well, she could die, and all of that would seem for naught, except it wouldn't have been because she delivered the dragons to Jon.
Okay, so here's another question.
Yeah.
The whole legend of Azor Ahai, the Lightbringer who first came and defeated Night, and his sword, Lightbringer, was the only possible way to create the sword that was able to defeat Night was to sacrifice his wife, the person that he loved the most.
Yeah.
Now, the whole question is, they played this up a lot in the previous seasons, and the curious thing is the whole point was to fight Night, and apparently now Night has been defeated. So the question is, one, is there still an Azor Ahai? And everybody thought it was going to be Jon, or maybe it's supposed to be Daenerys because it's the prince that was promised, but maybe that was somebody at one point said, oh, it's a very vague pronoun, somebody in the show.
Very vague.
It could be princess. Now, people are saying maybe it's Arya that was Azor Ahai, but none of them have really sacrificed, made a Azor Ahai consciously, with his wife's blessing, stabbed her with the magic sword to quench its fire.
Do you think Arya's training was a sacrifice? That was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, but no, what did she lost though? Now
she lost her sight for a long time. She did,
but I don't think that stands up to killing your wife.
Details.
Details. Minor details.
All right.
But so the question would be then: are they just discarding that, or is it going to be clear by the end of the show who Azor Ahai was?
Yeah.
Or is that just because that was a whole thing with Melisandre, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole Lord of Light thing.
Right.
And is the Lord between Beric Dondarrion, rip Beric, and Melisandre, rip Melisandre. Okay, man, the death toll of that episode.
It was tough.
There really isn't any representative of the Lord of Light now. So is Azor Ahai just okay, now we'll just discard that?
Now, that's awesome. Actually, I hadn't thought about that before. So, of the death toll you just mentioned,
yes,
did anybody die that you would hope would live? I kind of feel like everybody they killed was.
I was surprised.
I don't want to say secondary, but
Lyanna Mormont. Lyanna Mormont. She went out great.
One.
Now, if you listen to the commentary after the episode, it was great because they explained that she was supposed to be in one episode seasons ago, where she met the Starks and said, I'm not going to fight for you because I have to defend my island, and that was going to be it.
Right.
But she was so loved by the audience, and the cast and crew loved her so much, and the character she created that they kept her. Not only did they keep her, but she was one of the few characters that got a special moment in their death at the end. Right. So because she had become such a huge part, she's been in every episode this season.
Right.
And in her own scenes where she stands up to people and she's strong. I was very surprised and disappointed that she died. Not disappointed, it didn't crush me, but I was sad to see her go.
But it was cool.
Theon, I loved Theon's death.
Theon had to
die.
Had to sacrifice himself.
He had to. There's a whole list of people that have to die.
So you made an interesting observation. So when I saw Theon die, my initial reaction was, oh, it was a waste.
Right.
Because he did very little in that attack. But you made an interesting... So I was like, oh, Theon died for nothing.
Right.
Because Arya got him in the end. But what did Theon do?
Right.
And Bran kind of told him to do it. I was like, wow. But you made an interesting observation.
Well, Arya wasn't there.
Right.
When Theon finished off the last walker and stood up to the Night King, right?
Right.
I feel that he had to, even though it was only moments, I feel what he did was he again, with the strategy of all of the forces outside of the walls, he bought them time.
Right.
So even though he died at the death was crazy. He snaps his spear and stabs him with his own spear. All that took a few moments, but then the Night King actually looks down at him like, oh my God, I can respect that.
Yeah.
I can respect what you did. And the amount of time it took him to charge. And if you think about it, the Night King was about to cack Bran.
Right.
Bran had milliseconds left when she leapt. Right. So it's not like she was sneaking around. She was full on running to the point where I loved this moment where one of the White Walkers, his hair goes flip. And he looks behind him, and then in the neck, it immediately cuts to the Night King drawing his sword, and then you see behind him Arya just jump out of the fog. So I think once she positioned herself to make her run, she was making her run, and they needed every moment for her to make it. So I think that's what Theon was doing.
That's awesome, and I didn't really think about it that way, but you're absolutely right. The other thing that was interesting was. How instrumental Melisandre was to that.
Yeah.
Because she kind of motivated Arya to go do what she needed to do, right? Because she, in that room, Arya was kind of hopeless.
Yeah.
And she kind of said, you're it, right?
Yeah.
And so there was that. So Melisandre was all the right spots.
Yeah.
and then she kind of walked off into dust at the end there. But like, it was really cool.
She did what she had to do.
And to your point, if the Dothraki were like a delaying force, then those flaming swords probably cut down the first, whoever many knows how many ranks, because Dothraki are awesome, and slowed it down that much more. So they were fighting for minutes. What do you think? Like, so this was interesting to me too. So clearly, the Night King wanted to kill Brand,
yes,
and possibly the tree.
Mainly Brand, because he's the memory of the world. Is what they said.
And why does he want to do that?
Well, the three-eyed raven. This is what how they explained it in the episode. The three-eyed raven is the memory of the world,
right?
Because he has the ability to travel through time and actually experience any moment in the world throughout its entire history.
Right.
So he's basically the memory of the world. If you kill him, past, present, and future.
Right.
So if you kill him, then you have killed the memory of the world, and then you are that much closer to killing all of mankind,
right,
which is the ultimate goal of the Night King. Because remember, he was created by the Children of the Forest to defeat the First Men.
Right.
So he's kind of like almost like a computer running his program.
Right.
He's like the Terminator, and his program is like, it's not. Oh, the First Men aren't bad, aren't the only ones that are bad. Everybody's bad.
Right.
And so that's his whole goal. And
good analogy. It's like a sci-fi AI wiping out all life in the universe.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really cool. I hadn't thought about it that way. So I think that was really interesting. So it was brilliant. Bran knew he was a target. So Bran knew that he was going to come to wherever he was.
Right.
So he went to Winterfell, which was the most defended place they could get.
Yeah.
And he just had to buy time to give an opening to lure the Night King away from the majority of the forces.
And everybody thought it was for Jon.
Right.
And it turns out it was for Arya.
It was for Arya, but he had to be away from the forces.
Yeah.
So when they went there, it was really only like 4 bodyguards and him.
Right. Well, it was all the Iron Men who had traveled with Theon, and they all got wiped out.
Right. So that was pretty awesome.
Rip Iron Men.
Yeah, that was great. So what a great ending.
Yeah.
Was there anything you were disappointed in other than the tactics we discussed?
No, I don't think I was disappointed with anything. Again, I'm a sap. So I'm really enjoying what's happening between Sansa and Tyrion.
Yes.
I loved when she said, "You were the best of them." And he went, "Oh God help us." So I love those two characters. I love what Sansa
was awesome,
that was awesome.
They did a really good job. Both actors are very good.
Yep,
they did a really good job of showing the fear.
Yep.
Although I had just come out of Avengers and seen the new trailer for the new Phoenix X-Men series.
Oh, really?
And now all I kept seeing was like Sansa is Jean Grey.
Right.
You know? So
luckily I didn't see that one.
Right.
So no, I didn't. I wasn't disappointed at all. I was surprised. Like I said, but I would say the best defense for the ending, where Arya jumps in at the last second, is all of the foreshadowing that went on. Bran gave her that dagger at exactly the same point in the Godswood.
Yes.
She used that exact maneuver as the only way she could defeat Brienne last season.
Yep.
There's so much went to set it up that, I think there's a knee-jerk reaction possibly where people are like, oh, that was just like, what did they just run out of time or whatever?
No, but it's perfect.
That was lame. It wasn't lame. Everything that happened was foreshadowed almost as if they were like, a lot of you people are going to have a problem with this, and so we're going to lay the foundation so the case can be made after the fact.
I think it was great because they had you right up until the end really thinking it was either going to be a cliffhanger or they would lose.
Yep, that's true.
And I think if it was, here's what I was concerned about. I really, in my mind, Game of Thrones is mostly about getting control of the Iron Throne.
Right.
And so I really wanted to, I was actually really glad to see this battle was so really well done and so well executed and so fulfilling and satisfying, yet there's still another half of the season to really wrap up the politics part, which I also really like, and I think really, frankly, most fans of the show like. Let's be honest, there's been like 3 or 4 amazing battles, but most of the hours and hours of the show are the intrigue, which makes the show awesome. So you really want to wrap the intrigue up. So they did a great job of really making you think like this is going to be possibly a defeat with very few stragglers left. And it's going to be like, how the hell do we get control of the Iron Throne now that nobody's left? But instead it's no, we won. It's a little bit Pyrrhic because, Daenerys is out of everything. And, I'm not really sure. We don't really know what the total losses were. It was a lot.
It's got to be a lot.
So the North is definitely not going to be able to march right down to King's Landing and knock the Lannisters out by pure force.
Especially with them having the Golden Company.
Yeah. Now, there's still the Greyjoy fleet out there.
The good one or the bad one?
Well, I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, yes, but how's that going to happen?
Yeah.
There is the Golden Company, so it's a direct assault may not be possible.
Right.
But you got Super Ninja Assassin Arya.
Yeah. And now, do you think that? Okay, so now.
Dragons.
All right, so we loved it so far.
Yeah,
We're super satisfied with the first half.
So yeah,
where do we think it's going? Do you honestly think it's going to be Arya that's going to kill Cersei and that'll be it?
Well, it won't be that simple.
Yeah.
So Cersei's got her sort of mountain half undead, whatever he is now, right? So you got that to deal with.
Yeah.
And I don't think, as good as Arya is, we haven't really seen her. Well, I guess she could slip in and maybe take her out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would be that simple. There's still a lot of bad guys there. I think you have to sort of, you gotta get the people to believe that Daenerys is the rightful heir, or Jon is the rightful heir, or some combination of that's the rightful heir.
Right.
You got to deal with all that. You got to deal with the fact that I'm not sure we're not really sure how Daenerys feels about Jon being an heir.
Right.
Like that. Well, we kind of got that out, and then it just sort of
interesting, though.
stopped.
She's been sort of pursuing him and sad when he walks away.
Right.
That's what I've been seeing.
So there's that whole plot line, story arc they got to figure out. There's the Cersei situation. The other thing is, is the Spider going to sit by and just let Daenerys run out and the whole thing?
Right.
Is Tyrion going to sit by? Tyrion might. But maybe not. I don't know. So Tyrion still has a redemption. I mean, he's kind of redeemed, but he still could do things.
Right.
Where's Jaime going to fall on this? Does Jaime really hate his sister? Because he's kind of gone back and forth on that.
Yeah.
By the way, my wife loves Jaime, so he was on the not kill list.
Yes.
So that was happy to see.
Yeah. Well, he is going to die.
Yeah.
I think he has to die.
But he can make it to the end.
Yep.
I think he could be the one that kills Cersei.
Do you?
That would be ultimate Kingslayer.
I think Arya's going to die.
Do you?
I do. I think Arya is going to be set up as making the assassination run.
Yeah.
And is going to be stopped at the last minute.
She'll fail.
Maybe by Clegane.
Yeah. And then Jaime will pull it off.
It might be that. But the internet calls it Clegane Bowl. And that has to happen. I mean, that Sandor and Gregor are going to have to meet up.
Yeah, right.
There will be fire involved in that fight.
Yeah.
And it may be a mutually assured destruction scenario.
Yes.
I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but that I do believe that has to happen. That battle has to happen. It makes sense to me if Jaime is the one that kills Cersei in the end, but he will have to die because in these redemptive arcs, and again, that it depends. The show is walking a very fine line between nihilism and high fantasy, where the character's ends make sense on a moral scale.
Because you kind of have a return of the thing going on with Jon Snow, right? Kind of like he's coming back, and so there's a lot of very classic tropes going on.
Yeah, exactly.
But they take pivots so often you can't be sure.
Yeah.
So which I like about the show. So what I really like about it is you can't really predict. So I love the end of episode 3 because you couldn't predict it. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
No.
And if they say they did, unless they wrote it down somewhere, I don't believe them.
Right.
So I thought that was really, really good. But I'm with you. I think there's plenty of time to see it, but I do think all those things are going to come to pass. I do wonder. I do think Jaime's probably going to die.
Yeah. Well, he has to. He threw a kid out.
What do you think's going to happen to Brienne? She could be the one that kills Clegane. That'd be neat.
Brienne. I don't know why, and I don't know how, but I think she's going to survive.
Okay.
And I think here's
an outside chance she and Jaime live happily ever after.
I was going to say,
there's an outside chance for that.
Do you think their relationship ever has a chance to spark before the end?
There's an outside chance they live happily ever after.
That is true.
But if that happens, Robb and Daenerys will not be happy. I'm going to predict there's only one couple that's happy. John, yeah. I keep calling him Robb. Yeah. There's only going to be one couple.
I think Sansa and Tyrion. I think they're going to make it.
Okay.
Because that seemed so wildly implausible for the entire show.
Maybe, but I really think if the world just kind of being half-baked, because there's one other possibility, and that is the Iron Throne is destroyed.
I think that's
and there's no longer a king.
Yep.
But a lot of people die in the end, and it's just Jaime and Brienne going, well, that happened, and they live off, they move into a cabin and have children.
Could be.
I don't know.
They make little half beautiful, half ugly blonde babies
one-handed
together.
children. It'd be great. So I don't know, but
that's not genetic, Russ.
It's a joke.
Let it go. Sorry.
So I do. I could see that happening too. I could see almost like Jon being we got to stop this whole throne thing. But I don't know. That feels pretty far.
Now the Golden Company in the books
Yeah.
is actually loyal to the Targaryens.
Ah, interesting.
So it'll be interesting whether they play with that in the TV show, or they just use them as like an easy
Cersei
button.
Know that, and she knows she's coming. So would that be a dumb move on Cersei's part?
Or unless it's a setup. That could be a total setup.
Yes, yeah.
So now what's going to happen with Bronn, do you think? Bronn now is stalking the north with orders to kill Jaime and Tyrion.
Yeah, I don't know.
With a crossbow. We're going to see him. I would like to think that we see him and we are given a moment to think, oh my God, is he going to do it? And then he turns on Cersei and he's got to be a good guy.
Potentially.
I mean, Bronn has always been, in his own way.
Yeah, he's kind of
a good-ish
He's a likable
rogue. A likable
he's
rogue.
like a Han Solo
Especially
character.
When he was killing old men knights in the Vale. He was a likable rogue.
All good. That's right. I see that happening too. But at a high level, regardless of all the specific predictions,
right?
Do you feel like it's generally going to have? Because I would say probably midway through season 2 or season 3, we all would have probably said this is not going to have any happy endings,
right?
There were definitely arcs in the books and the show where nothing good was happening at all. Like after the Red Wedding, you got to kind of feel like this is not a happy tale.
Yeah.
After the battle at Winterfell, the other thing that's neat about that is it now gives you hope. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, remember the movie Serenity?
Yeah.
Where they insta-killed Walsh?
Yes.
And so everybody was upset about that, but at the same time, you thought anybody could die now?
Yep.
It's almost like the victory at Winterfell is kind of like, oh, this could have a happy ending.
Anybody might live.
There is hope. But I think they could also just throw cold water at that at the end. You thought it was going to be hope, and actually Cersei wins. Aha, you're all screwed.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of feel like
maybe
any of those things could happen. But what do you think? Is it going to be a happy end? Well, generally a rewarding end? I think Cersei winning could be rewarding, too, for the right kind of people.
Right. The bad kind of people.
Or just a story that's got a
no, they're bad people.
Okay.
I think they've got a very fine line to walk. I think if they make it too happy an ending, they're going to lose half their audience.
Yeah.
And people will hate them forever, and they will lose their legacy. I think if they go completely bleak and nihilistic, they're going to lose half their audience, the half I'm in. And we're going to hate it forever, and we're never going to watch go back to watch an episode. And from a purely mercenary financial point of view, they have multiple spin-offs in the works. So they don't want to completely alienate any sizable chunk of their audience.
You really want a satisfying ending so that you recommend to people who've never seen it before.
Exactly. There's a lot of reasons.
Because it's so unpredictable and so interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, my biggest complaint about the another epic series I thought was really good until the end was Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
So I really liked the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, but I felt the end was super unsatisfying.
I did, And
I just thought, I don't know what happened in the end of that movie, that series, honestly. So that was and I feel like they could make that mistake here by going way too dark or way too light. I think they have to ride the line of you being like happy and sad at the same time.
And you know what? I have faith that they can do that.
I think they can.
Because my takeaway from Game of Thrones from season 1 has been they took this awesome framework that George R.R. Martin gave them.
But never finished.
And in my opinion, didn't finish. Yeah.
Never. I am predicting this. George Martin will never finish the series in writing.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay.
He's done.
I know.
He's not done happy.
Yeah, you've been saying this for 3 years now.
And I'm not wrong.
I have stopped fighting you.
You
for
will
the
be
record.
dead before those books are finished.
Oh, great. Awesome. Curse me. But I have always maintained that they took this framework and improved it.
Yes.
That's what I have always felt that they did. Now, that doesn't mean there haven't been, false steps here or there or things. But the books, in my opinion, are in sort of a tailspin. Right? I mean, let's add a whole cast of characters and kill them off all in one book. Meanwhile, we're not resolving any of the main characters. So I think the books are a bit of a mess by book 5, by Dance with Dragons. Whereas this, I have a lot of faith in their ability to take the framework and make it work in a way that I am satisfied. I've always been satisfied with what they've done. And so I think it's going to be sad. I think there will be tears. I think characters I love and have loved for 8 years now are going to die. Now, in my head then says, well, you wouldn't see them anymore anyway because the show's about to end.
Yeah, but you want
them to end. Exactly. You want people to have an ending that they've earned. That's how I would frame it.
And not to reference event, but there was moments of Avengers that was the case.
Right, exactly.
People had endings they had earned.
Yes.
And I think this is setting itself up to potentially be that.
Yes, that's what I am hopeful that all of the characters that I love and hate will have an ending that makes sense for their arc, that fits in with the world that's been created over the past 8 years, and that they have earned. Exactly. Both good and bad.
And on that note, we must wrap up. But Craig, excellent discussion. Okay,
yes, it was an excellent discussion.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@the d6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening and happy gaming.